my name is Bonnie Chatler, and I'm here today to talk about the Feres Doctrine, an unconstitutional Supreme Court ruling that's not very well known at all. Has anybody here ever heard of it? I didn't think so. Let me set up a couple of scenarios for you. Two families, one civilian, one military. Both have a loved one going into the hospital for abdominal surgery. 6 months later, both patients are still complaining about abdominal pain. The civilian family's loved one goes back into the hospital for surgery again to see what's wrong, and they remove a 30 by 18 inch towel from his abdomen that was left from the first surgery. Well, obviously, there's shock, there's outrage. I can see from your faces that you feel the same way. Anger, they contact an attorney, they bring suit against the original surgeon and probably receive a relatively nice monetary award. The military family also receives the news that a 30 by 18 inch towel was left in the abdomen. Again, anger and shock and outrage, but they cannot bring suit against the military doctor who performed the original surgery because of the Feres Doctrine. This prohibits bringing suit against the government for malpractice and neglect. The Feres Doctrine was named for Lieutenant Rudolph Feres, who was killed in a barracks fire that was caused by a heating system that was known to be faulty. His family attempted to bring suit against the government for neglect, but it was thrown out, even though this is a direct violation of the First Amendment. The First Amendment guarantees the right to freedom of speech and the right to peaceably assemble, and also guarantees the right to bring grievance against the government for negligence or to seek redress from the government for grievances. The Supreme Court threw out their case based on the Federal Tort Claims Act, which was legislated to bolster the First Amendment, guaranteeing absolute power to seek redress from the government, to sue the government for malpractice and neglect. The Supreme Court did not see it this way, since the Federal Tort Claims Act did not explicitly state that it included military personnel. The Supreme Court felt that they were automatically excluded. This is ridiculous. The effects of the Feres Doctrine on medical care is that there are no ramifications, there are no repercussions for poor or shoddy medical care. Feres not only allows for a low standard of care, but also for no standard of care. There's no reason, there's no incentive for excellence. Guaranteed, there are certainly fine military doctors and nurses. However, there are those that have accepted the oh well attitude of the military medical community. What will be, will be. There's no accountability for errors. The case I talked about earlier, the 30 by 18 inch towel was in the abdomen of Sergeant Robert Jefferson, and the towel was emblazoned United States Army Medical. Sergeant Donzel Jones, who was trying out for military Olympics, was taken into the hospital for emergency surgery where inexplicably, the abdominal surgery, inexplicably both of his legs were injured. And that ended not only his military career, but his athletic career. Sergeant Dean Witt had an appendectomy where he stopped breathing immediately after. They tried to revive him using totally ineffective pediatric equipment. The man weighed 175 pounds. To top that off, they inserted a breathing tube and it was misdirected into his stomach instead of his lungs. And also he was administered a double dose of some powerful stimulant and he was brain dead shortly thereafter and removed from life support, leaving a wife and 2 small children. Captain James Lemp was diagnosed with a stomach virus. Several hours later, he was declared brain dead from a stroke-like condition and removed from life support. Experts later told his wife that with proper diagnosis and care, he would have achieved he had a 90% chance of achieving full recovery. My own daughter, Julie Chatler, Airman First Class, returned from Kenya and went to the hospital complaining of flu-like symptoms. She did not see a doctor. She was not offered the facilities of a doctor, but was seen by a physician's assistant and was sent home for bed rest. 2 days later, she was found comatose in her apartment. A week later, she was removed from life support, succumbing to encephalitis, which could have been treated had she been seen by a doctor or possibly hospitalized. Sergeant Carmelo Rodriguez went for a pre-deployment physical before going to Iraq. It was noted in his file that he had active melanoma, even though he was never told of it. When in Iraq, he went to seek medical treatment again for a wart. Again, this was the active melanoma. Nobody told him. He received no medical treatment. There are more cases, but there's no way to know exactly how many because the government does not release these statistics. And what is the remedy for this? Well, when you walked in today, you received these handouts listing the names and addresses of all of the members of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. And we must mount a concerted effort and letter-writing campaign demanding accountability for medical malpractice or negligence. There is no accountability now, and we must demand accountability. Our troops deserve it. We must demand it. This type of medical care would never be acceptable in the civilian community. We must protect our troops who protect us. Also, we must remember the words of General George Washington, who said that when we assume the soldier, we must not lay aside the citizen. We must restore civilian rights, all civilian rights to our troops. Feres must be overturned. Are there any questions?
How long has this been going on?
1950, December 4th, the ruling originally came down. This has been going on for 58 years. Any other questions?
What's the rationale for not overturning this law?
Well, Congress feels that due to the two wars that are ongoing, there would be a flood of cases brought against the government, which could cause bankruptcy, but this is really not the case. These cases would be heard under the Uniform Military Justice Code. Feres was never designed to cover that. Are there any other questions? No? Thanks so much.